First question. Do you put your thoughts on paper every day? I put my thoughts on paper most days, and I've been doing it as long as I can remember. How I put it on paper changes constantly. So I started off with long form journaling when it came to journaling, then it went into short form, into rapid logging, and then evolved into a hybrid of the two, where I use rapid logging to anchor my thoughts and then long form journaling to expand upon them. Next question comes from Anna Maria. How do you motivate yourself to do your best every day? I try to surface what I believe to be most meaningful that day. When I figure out what that is, that usually helps motivate me because I understand why I'm doing what I'm doing. The next question comes from Travis. Anything in the works that you're excited about? Yes. There are 3 big things that are going to be officially launching over the next, hopefully 3 to 4 months. So stay tuned. This question comes from Yeshim Elf. What do I think about the incredibly artistic Bujo spreads? If they serve you, then I think they're great. If you do them to get validation from other people, if you do them for likes, then I'm concerned. A journaling practice should not require any external validation. Of course, it's one thing to find other people that inspire you to journal or to communicate with other people who are on the same journey. Absolutely. I think that's wonderful. But it's another thing when you create your journaling practice around other people's opinions, because the more you focus on them, the less you focus on yourself, and eventually you won't have much of a relation to it. It will become meaningless. So if the art motivates you and inspires you and keeps you coming back to it, then absolutely, I think it's great. Next question comes from Chimodi. I really want a bullet journal, but I have no idea what kind of theme I should have. I never really think about the theme of a bullet journal, but I do think of a purpose. So that may be the same thing. So let me answer along the lines of a purpose. I think that often when people encounter the bullet journal, they don't really know what it is because there's so many different interpretations of it. What I would like to encourage you to explore is to have a reason why you're doing it. And that reason doesn't have to be big or impressive. It could be like, I just don't want to be as forgetful, or I want to be less overwhelmed, or I want to experience less anxiety, or I want to connect with people around me. Whatever that purpose is, you get to define that. And I think looking towards other people for inspiration is fine, but as long as that inspiration connects with something that you really need or you really want. So rather than a theme, I think having an intention for your bullet journal will serve you much better. Okay, the next question comes from Shaladin. When did you start your last bullet journal and how old are you? I started my latest bullet journal at the beginning of November, actually, and I am 40 years old. The next question comes from Naira. Do you think that bullet journal was essential for your self-awareness and emotional health? If you do, why? I started bullet journaling or designed the bullet journal to become more productive, and it worked. I became very good at accomplishing my goals. I had no problem setting a goal, accomplishing it, surpassing it, and then going on to the next goal and going on to the next goal. That is fine until you hit your goal and realize that you don't feel any better. You don't feel like you've gained anything from it. And that kept happening to me over and over again. That raise, that promotion, owning my own company, and so forth. None of it seemed to matter much. And that's when I started redirecting the focus of the bullet journal more towards my inner world and towards my thought, and using it more for personal thought management and emotion management, and asking myself, why am I doing what I'm doing? And that's when bullet journaling completely transformed for me. It went from being a process-driven tool to a purpose-driven tool. And till this day, that's really what I use it for, and I have yet to find an approach that is more effective in that context. What do you suggest when you're stuck in a journaling rut? Well, I guess it depends on what you use your journal for. If you start running out of motivation to journal, then maybe it's because you're not focusing on something that excites you any longer. And that's the beauty about journaling. It's a creative playground for you to think about whatever you want to think about, to focus on whatever you want to focus on. And that's kind of unlimited. Try to find something that sparks your curiosity and direct your journaling towards that end. The Busy Lemon asks, do you migrate tasks from the master to-do list to your dailies? So I am assuming that you're referring to the monthly log task list to my dailies. I do that when a task on the monthly log becomes a priority. Then I'll put it into my daily log. But when I'm doing reflection, I'm looking at my monthly logs task list every day as well, just to make sure that I keep it top of mind, and if something there starts to become a priority, then it migrates into my dailies. Otherwise, it stays there. MY asks, how do you organize your weekly bullet journal? I used to not do a weekly log, but now I do. My Mondays have kind of turned into a weekly log where I scrape everything from the previous week into the Monday, and that's been working out pretty well. Also because that template just works. The reason the daily log's designed that way is because it's quick and it's effective, and I've been repurposing it for a weekly log. Okay, Caro asks, what kind of journaling prompts do you suggest when you're trying to hold on to hope? I don't know if prompts are the best answer there. I think that's where journaling comes into play more so, because the thing that will convince you to keep hoping will come from inside. It will be some kind of recognition. At least that's been the case in my own life when I'm feeling rather hopeless. I have to all of a sudden experience something that changes my perspective, and prompts have rarely done that. More so than not, I find hope in my own writing or in the record of my bullet journal. Like, that's one of the reasons why I always encourage people to keep bullet journaling. Even if you stop for a day or a week or a month, come back to it, because it becomes a record of your experience. When we're feeling really bad and we're in a really dark place, it's very hard to convince us that there is any light at the end of the tunnel, that this is not a permanent state. And reviewing my journal and seeing how I've had good times and I've had bad times, and that the only permanent thing is change, can be really helpful. It can kind of dislodge this dark commitment to your own pain. So you have the record on the one hand to look back on, to see that things change constantly, and if you're going through hell, all you have to do is keep going. That's really all you have to do. Another way to create hope is to take action, right? Very few things just magically get better by themselves. What matters is how you respond to what's happening to you. And almost in every given situation, there is an action that you can take. There is a way to respond. And through journaling, often when I am journaling, I'm not just writing things out. I study that record and I try to figure out, what are the action steps here? What is something I can do? One thing, what is one step I can take right now to make things just a little bit better? And maybe it will work, maybe it won't. But we keep trying until something does work. And if one thing will work, then chances are other things will work. And that can provide a lot of hope when none is there. Next one is from Sukanya. How does bullet journaling work for people with severe ADHD? How can they stick to the habit? This is a great question, and one that I get often, and my recommendation here again is to make sure that you start with a specific need. Why are you interested in bullet journaling? What have you heard about it that has brought you here? So trying to define what that something is before you start using any tool, bullet journal or otherwise, I think can be really helpful in helping you stick to it. Because if the tool addresses your need, it will become relevant and it will become helpful and it will make things easier, and that makes it much easier to stick with, right? When you start seeing results, it can provide the motivation that you need to keep going. Which style of bujo do you prefer? Minimalistic or artistic? Whether it's artistic or minimal, that's a discussion about style. For me, what matters is the purpose. I prefer that people focus on their purpose, and the expression of that purpose, whether it be minimalistic or artistic, is up to every individual person, and that's what makes bullet journaling so much fun. You get to express yourself the way that you feel is right, and you can refine that over time. Okay. Study With Me asks, how do we keep a bullet journal if there is little going on? A quote comes to mind from Sam Harris: boredom is a lack of imagination. There are countless books to read. There are countless movies to watch. There are people to call. There are pictures to take. The options are limited only by your imagination. So if something doesn't happen to you, make something happen for you. Take the initiative. And I can't overstate this enough. I think that the people who are happiest in life are proactive. They don't wait for things. They find them over and over again. And yes, it takes work, and some days you just want to sit on the couch, and that's fine. But if you really feel like nothing's worth writing down in your book, make something that is. And you can make that out of time and energy and focus. Keep looking until you'll find something, because I guarantee you will. Whether you're looking for days, months, or years, that's an endeavor well worth the effort and the investment. So if you are bored, then that's a sign that it's time to look. I hope that's helpful. Quake Boy asks, are you a happier person after starting to use bullet journal? I think that bullet journal has made me happier because it's helped me focus on things that I believe to be much more meaningful. And in the pursuit of the things that are meaningful, I end up being generally a happier, more content person. Because even when things don't work out, I wouldn't have changed anything, right? I would have tried that again. I would have done that again. So hopefully that helps. Okay. CNF Pod asks, what were old chronic collections that you used to create that you have since excised from your practice? That's a great question. What don't I use anymore? I would say anything where I started to feel like I was hoarding something. There are a lot of those. Like, it's not about movies that I want to watch, but movies that I did watch. Not shows that I wanted to watch, shows that I did watch. At one point, I just realized that they were adding no value to my life, and I started throwing those things away. Maxwell asks, how to maintain journaling after very busy days when energy runs low, or after a few days of not journaling and needing to catch up. I have had the longest stretches of not bullet journaling when I feel like I need to catch up. So I made an agreement with myself that catching up isn't the point, it's showing up. Consistency really is the core of having bullet journal be effective. It's what you learn by showing up as much as possible. So if you're exhausted or you're going through a really intense time where you just don't have time to do it, don't make bullet journaling a burden. Bullet journaling should be a relief, and if not, it should help clarify things. It's just about showing up, not being perfect. And if you're running really low on energy, you can very quickly transform this thing that could be helpful into a burden. Next question is from Xenia. Do you have tips on not mixing up several projects in your Bujo as a project manager? I constantly lose track of which notes belong to which project. The short answer for this is collections. There are a lot of resources on collections on bulletjournal.com as well as on the YouTube channel. I highly recommend checking out collections as well as dedicated indexes. So indexes that are dedicated to a project that have many different moving parts, so you can quickly access both meeting notes as well as any kind of relevant information. Christina Pop has two questions. Why are you not using weekly spreads? We went over that, so I am now. And how often do you make mental inventory declutter your mind? So for me, the monthly log is my mental inventory. Once a month, I sit down and I think about the things that I'm doing, that I should be doing, that I want to be doing, and I write those down on the task list. And if something needs more attention, then I'll create a collection and expand on it. How do you keep things from accumulating? You keep checking in, and the way I recommend doing that is through daily reflection, both in the morning and the evening, sitting back down with your bullet journal to reread the things that you've written down. The biggest problem for me with normal standard to-do lists is that it's kind of a write and run. You just write things down and then you feel like you've accomplished something, but you haven't really. You just have offloaded something. A big part of bullet journaling is that we keep on curating the things that we write down. We keep coming back to it and addressing piece by piece by piece the things that are actually really important surface. So we have daily reflection, and then we have the monthly migration. So during the monthly reflection we do migration, and that way you are always looking through the things that you've written down to make sure that they don't accumulate over time. Okay, one more question. Mira asks, what is my Myers-Briggs profile? And it is INFJ. Okay, so that's all the time we have for today. Let me know in the comments whether or not this was helpful or entertaining, something new. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next week.